Hello, friends. Welcome to Tech Simplified TV and a very warm welcome to the Semiconductor podcast. We are back with another exciting episode, and our today's episode is a myth busting episode. And Dr. Ranadhir Ghosh has joined us from Florida, USA. He is a very learned person and AI thought leader. He is not from semiconductor background, although he has a very deep knowledge in AI. That's why we requested him to explain us what is AI and how whatever we are listening around, there is a buzz. AI is a buzzword. How much in that? How much part is myth and how much is reality? What should we know? What should we do? How should we prepare ourselves for this new age? So we want his advice, his insight. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation. Thank
Thank
you
you very
very
much.
much, and welcome to TSP. We would want to learn. We would want to start from your journey. You started as a IT from IT background, and then now you are an AI thought leader. So, what is the stages through which you reached this position and you became an AI thought leader? Please share with us. We will start with your journey.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So I think when I look back in introspection, it was a sort of a hybrid. Like it was love and sort of arranged marriage both. Because I remember in my third year or final year of engineering, there was a subject called compiler design, and there was a very interesting thing that I came up where the way you design compiler is you first write um, a small code that will convert some basic instruction. Those basic instruction, then it will use to to understand those basic instruction, and then you use that to actually build the next step, right? And you keep doing this in an iterative way to build your compiler. So that first hit me, and I found it very interesting. And now, um, 6 months, I think the next semester, there was a subject called artificial intelligence. And yes, almost 30 years back, I think, or maybe more, I don't remember exactly. So there was this subject, artificial intelligence. And there I came up with a very interesting thing, which says that it is possible that we can build a basic intelligence system. Human can create a basic intelligence system. And when we studied Turing machine, and that time it hit me that it can be that if the compiler design concept and this artificial intelligence, what they are trying to say, if we can put it together, and that means that it is possible that we build this intelligent system in an iterative loop, and the end result, that means we can really create a very powerful, sophisticated intelligent system. And that is the time I decided I want to do masters and PhD in artificial intelligence, and that is exactly what happened. So though it says IT, but all throughout after that I studied artificial intelligence. Though in my time when I studied my masters, we used to have two different groups. Like one group we used to have called like contemporary and traditional AI. So traditional AI, we had expert system and those groups, and then we have soft computing, like we have neural network, fuzzy logic. It has been difference the way we used to use terminology. So I was in the second group, and that was also a very interesting reason why I used to be in that second group, because I feel that the learning will be a key factor in this. Whereas like the expert system, it's more from you're coming from the top down approach, from how actually the knowledge, representation, reasoning, those were their focus area. And so it was more sort of those things. And I thought that we have to first solve the learning problem. So always had some sort of I will say that passion to understand learning, understand the intelligence sort of things. And I was always curious about a lot of things, biology, how, because I knew that things somehow, these whether it is biology, chemistry, this science, we have some answers, we'll find that. So we have to borrow from these areas. So all throughout my research, like I was doing neural network and then did my PhD in neural network learning, and that's how it started, right? So um, as I said, it's a hybrid. So I'll not say it was completely destiny. It's just I got it. But yes, there is, of course, we cannot deny the role of destiny. But there is also a sort of, very like a choice that I wanted to do. And yeah, I was always interested. So I in my heart, like though I am in industry for last 17 years, I was always passionate. I am passionate about education, like coming from academia background, because I was in university for five, like more than 5 years. So as a lecturer. So I am passionate about educating people. We discuss and those things. I think that always helped me, to understand things, how they think, future generation think, and it's learning always, like it works like both ways. Yeah, and I'm always passionate about science. So, and that is how I think I can link things very easily.
Okay. So when you said that there was a part in your syllabus about AI, so which year this is
Yes.
timeline? I want
So
to.
yes, 90, absolutely. So my engineering was from 92 to 96 years. So so there was a subject called AI. It was very basic things. Of course, we did not have at that time those subjects. We did not have any lab or something like that. We did not write any codes, but there was mainly theory based. But um, I think, to certain extent, I was lucky that I could get this insight of the impact of this theory, especially intelligence. Maybe because my interest was biology and intelligence, it attracted me. But I could definitely, at least I could link that intelligence will be in form of iteration, and like we'll be able to create that in a like sort of infinite loop. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, when we were just because of semiconductor, we download many, we try to browse many PDFs and all online. Many things are available. We got a book, and I forgot the year. So there was a concept about the book. I think that in the book is available in Project Gutenberg. Um, very early thought about AI intelligence into in machines. There is a book, so that's why, yeah, I now I remember. Yes, there is a book available.
Yeah, actually, if you look into that, history is long time back. I mean, 1950s or so, people had this idea. It's not nothing new, right? It's of course there because of the industry and the use cases. People are hearing about AI and all those things, but the human inquisitiveness to build, like even the early tools, they used to think some sort of a cognition into the tool, but because it was a very, yes, it was a some for only for some time when like human used to like invented the tools, and immediately after after some range, and they actually tried to integrate cognition with that. So even if it is to a small extent, so people always were interested to build something that can sort of um, does follow their instruction to help them, right? So the early Turing machine, they had this concept, and then what happened during 19 I think 70s and all, there are these two quite famous. If you do some research, you'll find out. So one is the Rosenblatt, and then Minsky, Marvin Minsky. So these two had a very different ways how to achieve that, right? To do these sort of things. One completely focusing on certain ways, right? Um, the traditional way they used to call that time, and then Rosenblatt came up with the concept of the neural network. But unfortunately, he could not support that, like how it will solve that, because people are good that they cannot solve any nonlinear problem. For example, they gave an example of XOR problem, right? So they said even like neural network, it was at that time there was no activation function, nonlinear activation function and all. So it is mainly a linear weighted type of like a discriminant analysis, like you can think of that. One boundary line, linear boundary line to separate problems, and they could not support that, and then funding was stopped on one neural network for 10-20 years, and then it was revived. So whatever you see now, the neural network, the deep neural network, there has been lot and lot of changes in the perception. Like for example, when I was studying my engineering, and that point of time in the neural network, there was this concept that for any continuous function, we can just use one hidden layer and we can solve these problems. But now, if you look into this, now people will love, because now we have these so many layers, and we did not have that vision at that point of time. So people are not good. This is we have to understand, we are not always good visionaries, and in technology we have missed many point of times in understanding what will happen in future, right? Even though we are very good at present, but yeah, there has been a lot of instances where we have mispredicted. So that is also, we have to keep that in mind when we hear from people talking about that. Yes, so we have to that, yes, things may not be 100% the way we think about the future is coming.
Okay. So now my second question, that there is a very common belief that that AI will take all your jobs. Whenever I start watching any video in YouTube, at least one or two, this kind of guys, you have to learn. Someone is eh, with adrenaline rush saying that. Otherwise, you will get replaced. So, how much true is this? And when we are in tension or in anxiety, most of the time we overlook some point which can benefit us. In this case, is it happening that we are missing something and thinking that AI will replace many jobs, AI will replace so many people, will get jobless? Is it true, or and we are missing something here? What is happening? What is the truth?
I think it's a very the question. I will take probably a little bit, time to answer this, because it's not
Sure, sure.
so easy
Please.
to provide insight. So please allow me to answer this, to give a context. So first of all, if you look into human civilization, like so we have adopted a path of growth. Like we unfortunately, yes, we still have choices, still will have choices in future also, but it is quite evident the way human civilization from the bipedalism, to if you look into the way our brain and like only being like 2%, and it is almost absorbing like 20% of the energy. So it was not very um, like equilibrium or optimized way the nature does things. So we have taken a lot of choices that is probably the traditional wisdom of nature, like which no other animals have taken that path. So definitely, what we are into this path. So we to now we cannot defy, you cannot say okay, cannot grow, because like if you look into any whether the economy and whatever, like it is without technology we cannot survive. It is as simple as that. Like the what the food is required,
Mm,
our
mm,
aspiration. So like the basic necessity, from our basic necessity to aspiration, we cannot survive without technology. Now the problem is we cannot say, hey, this is a point where we have to stop. Like we cannot do that, because the like it is like a that machine that it has started flowing and it will keep running. So somehow I think human needs to find a different ways how we can solve this to be done in a proper manner, but that's a different issue. I will go together now. So in terms of when we are worried about job, I will say, first of all, even forget about what the outcome is. You know, let us find out what we can do about it. Let us. So there is no meaning in discussing why I'm worried about job. No, first of all. So that means Yes, things are changing, and things are not changing for now. If you look into this through, I mean, from agriculture evolution, people has shifted quite a lot, right, to industry evolution. And every time, if you look into this with the addition of a change of technology shift, if anything, the job addition was more. Now, having said that, what is happening? If you think of a pyramid, like the human, why it is, what it is driving to, what is actually it is doing to us. If you think of like a pyramid, that means humans contribution to the society requiring to shift up. So the way we are actually, if you think the way we are contributing at this present, so the everything that is happening with us, the way the growth happening, so that means our contribution requires also shifting up. And this is where the shift will come. So now the question is, okay, so industry, from industry revolution, from the agricultural, that has required there's some shifting up. So then there are other technology that has come, and continuously it is asking us to shift up. Now, is there something different now with the AI? Now, first of all, we have to understand when this technology, a major technology shift happens, it happens in certain stages. The first stage is something we call is an additional change. Like what is the meaning of that? So people will be like something like we need to let's say make ourselves more productive, let's say 2x, 3x, 4x. People are talking about 10x, let's say. What is the meaning of that? So that means the first step is the additive stage. It might stay there for a decade or so. So we have to understand the tools. So fortunately, like we still have seen that stage, so that additional stage. So a lot of jobs are coming, it's just the new roles are coming, and we just need to understand how we can contribute or provide contribute more using those tools 10x, because that is as I said, that we have to move up ourselves to that pyramid. So it has to be done. So no matter whatever field you are in, you have to, AI is almost embedded in being integrated almost any domain. And why it is that? Because like if you think of this, because the biology is limiting us in certain ways. So if you look into the Homo sapiens evolution, and now it can only do so many things, but our aspiration is actually overpowering this. So that means what we want is much more than what biology can provide us, and that is where technology, we need some kind of augmentation through our technology. What it
Yes.
means that like we need more data to handle. Now our biology, we cannot do that, right? So of course we need some sort of this technological aspect in this. So we all need this tool, so we have to understand how to use this tool so that we can actually do better. Now this, but how long it will go in the additional phase, to be honest, nobody, I don't think anybody can answer, like whether the next phase will be little bit of challenging, because next phase will be from the additional, it will actually move to a stage where it will try to sort of create a system where it will challenge, to give that why that will happen, why that shift will happen. If you look into how, for example, historically, like if you look into the labor wages that we are working, like for example the mindset that okay, we are doing job, right? So we are providing, so in the economic growth, so there is a certain percentage what the labor wage actually they contribute to, and then there is a capital earning. If you look in historically, and there is a gap, so that means the cap, so it is shifting towards capital owners. So that means the real economy, whatever the growth is compared to the capital ownership, is going more towards the capital economy. So that means you are earning interest or whatever. So that means it is actually the fund. If you have more funds, it is actually going there, and that is why the wages are only contributing to less and less the overall this progress. And what it means, that obviously that means it is creating this disparity between like people who have, like who are actually having most of the chunk, right? And this is actually putting a opposite pressure. And what will happen, let's say, and obviously it cannot go like that in this linear fashion. So for a long time it has happened. So what can be a possible thing? One of the possibility, if you look into this, what is happening, Now technology has created the barrier, that easy barrier for many people to go into entrepreneurship. If you look into last few decades compared to the overall history, you'll see people are going to become entrepreneur. And what it makes possible, technology. So the way I see it, if you ask me, there will be even more. And I see that even one or two people, I mean, will be creating our next Google, for example, really, or next, like, because, that is what, because technology has augmented, they have created so much, power that it will almost democratize, the skill set. So that is what I see probably as a next phase. Lot of, because this gap of labor, wages and this capital ownership, and what will happen, this type of, people who actually can augment very well, and especially people, that there are different type of skill sets. So for example, there is I-shaped skill set, where you have one deep knowledge in something, and this is where actually you will see that the automation will, eat the most of the pie, because that the height or the eye shape, that vertical length will slowly be eaten up by the AI. But when you think of something like a T, that the T shape, let's say for example, the T shape is where you have a deep knowledge in one vertical, and then you have this horizontal, depth. So where, for example, you have a lot of soft skill, like your collaboration, your communication skill, and learning agility, and those are the things that if once you have these sorts, they will survive more. They will be running this, for example, the integration and all these things and so on, like how AI will be implemented. Then you have the spy shape skill, like, so where you have, other than the soft skill, also what you have more, something like a leadership skill, which will be future, like you have a X-shape skills, like for example, where you're our future leader. So you have a lot of empathy and all those things. So when you have these five shape skills, and you have, other than these soft skills, you also have, empathy and all those things. So though they will be the one who will be running this project and all. And then finally we have this leadership, and like leadership skills will be probably have more insight. So if you look from the job perspective, so the traditional way, if you fundamentally look into the skill set and all, there is not much. It is only exactly the specific probably job will change, but the way the people soft skill will become more and more important. So no matter what you do, like in your field, you have to understand that you have actually achieved those kind of soft skills. So the job will still be there, and what you will be doing probably for a long time is doing this integration in various ways. So tools, obviously people will be, so the first additional, like this stage, which most of us, even unfortunately, we I think we are going to the next step very fast. So I will advise that please make sure that you have got some soft skills, so that you are not only focusing on one eye shape, right? And there will be people who have probably their knowledge in other skills, like as I said, empathy and all. They will probably be the future leader and all, the way I see it now. So that is how, like I see it is happening as a next step. Now sometimes people say, why people are thinking of universal basic income and all, what happens that every job is are done by robot. Now practically, the fundamentally yes, but practically there are certain issues, because the way economy has so far, the economic theory, if you think of this, they are mainly developed for zero sum game. Now just think of this a situation where we have the technology has optimized the ways things function so better, that there is abundance, there is no resource consider, something like that. If we achieve that, currently we do not have an economic theory how it is going to happen, because even if we do solve the universal basic income, the problem is job has not only one aspect of, like for livelihood. It has got other aspects. So for example, what about the purpose? And that is where I think it will find a challenge, right? So we have to, either human needs to completely come up with their own definition, is what is the purpose of this life, only is this through particular way that we have defined that we have to job. So there are a lot of questions that is unanswered today. We are not well equipped to. It's not. The AI will not solve everything. The human, the government, the society will need to solve these answers, because like we cannot just say this will happen. So the way I see that, there are stages. The maximum thing I can say that at this point of time, that currently we are in the transition from additional stage to that different skill set that people will need to find themselves to be for the next generation. So there are, and to be, as I said, that, so don't just think from the job perspective. There will be a lot of entrepreneurship that is, so please be open to that. And that is what is going to, and technology is actually empowering you, and that is exactly what technology is doing. So that like the pressure that is shifting from this to the capital owners will change. Because why? Because like ultimately, who is the capital owner for the AI? If you really think of this now, for example, now from the investment money, yes, ultimately when the AI has to run, like, so who will be the owners? The owner will be not in terms of money, right? Owners is also in terms of the skill set, who actually runs that. So those that now, so the only way you can challenge that, if you, for example, your skill set will become like almost like equivalent to money. So that means, because technology can remove the barrier to a certain extent, you need only very low investment, and you can build your like, for example, there is a possibility that you come up with something and you literally can challenge this large organization, because large organization, trust me, will be having lot of challenges to have ultra efficiency with their big teams, compared to like one or two, where you can take a lot of risk, you can do a lot of things. They have a lot of challenges. So the job for them is not also very simple, right? So it will be quite interesting game coming up in the next decade or so, the way I see it. And through that challenges, the economist theory will come up. They will come up with the new ideas. Then the philosophers will come up with I think this, even the spiritual guru will come up, who probably will help a human to realize what probably the best way to idea about the job. So there are a lot of unanswered like these things. So it's not so easy. So in short ways, we can think of this. The best way, I think, not to make things very confusing, is there will be a lot of different jobs, and all you can do that, I mean, we cannot worry, because even if you worry, it will not solve the problem. So ultimately, we are in this process, and we have to do this like a game. We are already, the moment we are born, like we have to play certain games, and we are destined for that. So it is better to learn the game, rule of the game, and play it well. And the best way to play it well, you understand that. So what are, so choose on deep, you know deep in the one area where you want to build your expertise very deep. And now make sure that you build your soft skill, and it will be extremely good if you can develop your empathy. Because trust me, in future, if human has a make a choice that we have to survive, like until and unless really something else happens, so then these ethical rules, the compliance rule, will take a major ways to control. Because ultimately, I think the purpose here is, yes, we need something that will help us, but ultimately the intrinsic motivation should come from human, because they don't have an intrinsic motivation. So we don't want to go to a stage where we want to like something like they have their own motivation to do things. Because ultimately, whatever we have achieved so far in terms of um, like I mean, I will say this as a from different perspective, a subjective experience, and they don't have that, right? So that's a different way. So we have achieved many things of intelligence in the cognition level, but the highest form of this is still the subjective experience that we have, and that's why we have this intrinsic motivation to do things which they do not have, and that will not be so easy to achieve.
Okay. That is not the explanation I was thinking probably, but you changed perspective. It's amazing. I mean, never saw things in that way. So already we received one first comment from Mr. Chandan Raj. He was our guest. He is a CEO from Bihar. He runs his company from Bihar. Thanks, Chandan, for watching. Keep watching the whole session. He said, "Great vision." He's watching and said, great vision. So, ah, okay. So this is our first comment from viewers today. And now, so AI is intelligent. As in fact, you have answered my third question also. My third question was basically the AI is intelligent. I use AI because of my work, composing something and all, generating some pictures, and yes, I do it does it really well. Some cases it fails also. Still, it's I cannot expect. 5 years back I couldn't expect something like that. It's a wonder to me. And where it seems that it's intelligent like human, where it lags, you have just explained it. Yes,
But I
it
think
has
I
high.
have to. Yeah, yeah, but I think I want to take this opportunity to add something to it.
Sure,
When
sure,
you
please.
say intelligent, if you don't mind.
Very.
Okay, so
Yes, why should I? Because I want to know even.
okay, so so as I said, when I think one of the way we have labeled this AI, I think it's very misnomer. I don't know why we have called this AI, because most of the time, because it's ultimately human who comes up with all this. So we have a very human centric vision, and for the right reason we have to. So when you say artificial, we had this concept just because it's not a living being. But if you really think from a very general perspective, there is no artificial. And ultimately, we are all made of atoms, and that's true then. Until unless you really want to consider it as human centric way to do that, yes, that then it is artificial. Otherwise, there is nothing artificial in. Now, intelligence also, there is a layers, and there are many layers of understanding what is actually the true meaning of intelligence in a very shallow way. When you think of intelligence, the intelligence, is it only the pattern detection? Is it like something understanding the concept? Is it something you apply it for transfer knowledge? What about understanding? Now, other than understanding, I think today we have reached a stage where we all agree that we have reached, like, we are very good in pattern recognition, detection, and all those things. Understanding, there are two different groups. There is one group who believes that we have already reached a stage where we understand things, and there is a group, of philosophers who say no, it's not like that. So now, I have my own personal view on that, but I don't want to mention that at this point of time. So let us understand, for example, before I answer this context of understanding, let us understanding who understand. So it will be easy for me to explain. Who understand? It is a subject to understand. Now, what happens when we have subject to understand? So today we do not have, first of all, we do not have any measurement or model that can actually prove that something can understand. So the closest framework that we have that can tell us, it is called integrated information theory, or IIT. So that is the closest model we have. They have a factor called phi, and so that is based on the belief that ultimately everything comes from a brain. So if it is a function, and then whatever the function, how much complexity it is, if it is a function, we can replicate that synthetically. And so the argument is, so there are two differences that can happen. So that means one is, the point is, let's assume that if the complete understanding or complete cognition is a function of, now there is a difference in that. Now forget about that. So now let us think that it is a complex function, and can we replicate this fully? So obviously we have not achieved that fully. Why? Because let us discuss three important things in this model. One particular things, it talks about dense recurrent connectivity. What is the meaning of that? So the way we have built so far all this system in artificial intelligence, it's a step, the input, process, output, but there is no recurrent step in it. So for example, like, let's say, our human brain, when we see something, right, we see a picture of something. Let's say it comes to our retina, and then it goes to the higher higher levels, let's say, and the higher level says, I process then higher level process the ages and some other information and says it looks like, like it's not entirely, like something. Can you please rectify your these things? So it sends back the signal to that V1 level, and the V1 again rectify. So it is a corrected coding styles, and then again sends back. So there is nothing like that we could actually do this. So just imagine, like the power of that. So that means what I mean that, like if we using today's network, we get input comes to this, until it receive the end stage, like we don't know anything. So every state we have a recurrent in the brain, and imagine like, and so that is so unique feature the way we have. And the next thing that we do is increasing cause and effect. So what is the meaning of that? So let's say we sleep, like even if our eyes are closed, we can still dream. Just think of one sensor is off and you have all the facilities that actually that input is doing, actually, like you can go to get into the network. That's a very powerful thing. So really what is happening that, so even though the sensory organ is not receiving any signal, but internally whatever the function, it is actually recreating that. So it has a very intrinsic mechanism of performing that and changing that. So this is second thing. And the third, I think the most critical and most important thing that probably will take the most time is called irreducible integration. What is the meaning of that? That means you cannot break it further to break the causality. What is the meaning of that? So think of this. Our experiences are very uniform and integrated. Like, so if we listen something, if we like see something, like everything, the understanding comes, okay, this person who is this singing this song, which is a melody, everything. We do not have separate saying, okay, it's a red color, everything happening together. And if you think of today's network that we have built so far, it is this isolated things, right? So we have a vision sensor, we have this, and then the information comes in with joints. And people, especially to certain extent, just try to build a multimodal RAG. You'll understand just even to build something like that, how difficult it is. And now imagine how we human do it. Like it is amazing that the experience comes as a unified experience. Like you just cannot break. You cannot just say, oh, okay, let me isolate this sound from there. No, you cannot do that. It's the whole thing that is coming. So this integrated experience is not there in that network. And anyway, so these three together is the closest model to that. And even if we, let's say, assume that yes, it is completely, brain is it's a completely function, the consciousness of function, the phi, the measurement is so low for us. So that means it is still a long way to go. And now coming to the first part, like, is brain function, complete function, that is consciousness the complete function? Now, at least we know from that it is a hard problem on consciousness from people like philosophers like David Chamar and all. So that means but like at some point of time, maybe there are people who believe that the subjective experience cannot come from the objects. So no matter, even if we go down to the level of single neuron and we know everything, everything all the neuron does at the brain level, it's not possible to understand how all these signals gives us this subjective experience. So we cannot have one function that completely does that. Yes, we will be able to build a mental model. We'll be able to build the intellect model. That means how to take the decision and all, but we will not be able to give them awareness or something that, yes, I like the experience of feeling experience, because they don't have any physical world interaction. Now, I know that there are researchers like, for example, from Meta is heavily investing in this, where they are trying to build something, these models, how to interact with the physical world, because this is something completely lacking. We know that if we put our fingers in a fire, like we'll burn. Even if we train the network, it is not getting this from this experience. It is like it produced this text, but it has no way of knowing what is the meaning of that. So that is what I'm talking about. So until and unless we build our model that can interact with the physical world, we'll never be having an equivalent intelligence system. So I will suggest that yes, when it is come to intelligent in AI, artificial intelligence, we take it with a very narrow definition of intelligence. That I will suggest that something to say, oh yeah, pattern recognition and all those things. And when it really we come across the situation is human level consciousness and all, then take this discussion in a different level and say, okay, so then we have to solve this way. But even if we solve that, then there is a spiritual dimension to it which will challenge this concept that can you build subjective experience or not. So I mean, so unfortunately, I cannot give you all the answers that, like whether we'll be able to solve it, but at least I can tell you that, yes, that's a completely different level of answers that we need to find out. But whatever the computation level can give us, we have not reached, and there is no reason why a silicon cannot reach that. Only a biological only biology can reach. Definitely I think that that will happen at some point of time.
Great. With every answer, I'm just so having so amazing experience in this podcast. Another comment came from another viewer. This one. I truly appreciate the clarity and depth with which you framed this. It's both insightful and inspiring. People are liking this session very much. Actually, that was our intent to understand what it is. And now I realize that if I'm a person with medium IQ, if I don't get the whole point, I think there are many people in this world who don't have proper understanding of AI. So we are, I mean, what we are doing, it's right, helping people. It's really so. So can AI be biased despite being machine driven? Is it possible to make it biased?
So let us understand this. I mean, when we say we are biased of what? Okay, so we are like, let us understand this fundamentally. We say humans are biased. Why? Okay, one is we are biased because of certain motivation, right? Now, does AI model have this motivation? Answer is no. So AI does not have any motivation to be biased. Now, all right. Now forget about the motivation part. Now, what other things makes us biased? Even if we do not have a motivation, let's say we have a very neutral type of guys and a child, let's say, who has never seen a black swan, right? Now, this child and has seen for 3 years, like only white swan, and then the child understand that okay, swan cannot be black. And even if it finds a black swan, it say, oh, I think that is wrong, something else. So now the question is, AI based is interpretation of the data. So that means that if, for example, you provide a data that itself, one very simple example I can give you, let's say some profession, right, where actually you have provided the male, female, and let's say the profession is mechanical engineering. I'm just giving one example. And like you have many features who studies mechanical engineering. You probably you take any cities, or you model that in a city, and then it finds a very important figure as female, like male or female, and it says that yes, one of the property to become mechanical engineer, it seems like male, it has to be male. Now, do you think that it is a biased observation? Well, the data is saying that, like the machine itself it is just the data. So the question of being biased, you can only say if there is intrinsic motivation to become biased. Otherwise, like it is the data that is saying. Now, so that means, okay, that is one way. So data is giving that. Now, it is a bit tricky when it comes to generative AI. Now, when it comes to generate, this is the classical AI model. So, classical AI model neither have any intrinsic motivation, and they whatever they seize the feature, they try to find importance of this. Now, human actually interprets this as a biased or not. AI doesn't know anything about that. They just simply do the correlation part.
Hmm.
So now coming to the generative AI, that is slightly bit tricky because when generative AI will try to predict something, and that means you are taking that generative AI into the decision information space. Really, you are integrating that with the decision information. So if you want to do that, then it can suggest you, it can recommend you something like that, which can be biased. So either because of hallucination can be one thing. So that means one thing there is no probably relevance of data. So that is something that can come, hallucination comes, but that is an error. That is not coming because of any biasness. That is coming because of the error, because the hallucination happens. But the result can be interpreted as a bias by the human. And the second thing, sometimes what happens is, okay, so let's say one of the things that happened, that it was, like it rejected it has certain objective. You have found, because when you use generative AI, let's say think of this agentic model where you have certain goals. Let's say your goal is like, you um, select candidates. Let's say in HR, you select candidates who can be very highly productive, for example. And suddenly, like data, whatever the agent this have seen the data, and found that, for example, let's say certain race or certain gender has not performed so well, so it has just optimized its goal. Now, as a human, probably we have, even though we have a goal, we have other models, sub models, which actually every time we use all those things to take that goal. But when you have a AI model, like I'm specifically talking about the generative AI, and let's say we build this agentic model, until unless you are very careful, we just say, okay, this is my goal. It does not have any constraint. All it is trying to do is it is trying to achieve this goal. So, like the human, which has an implicit ethical model, implicit moral model, implicit XYZ, they don't have that. So obviously it will give you some biased, results, and there is a high probability it will give you the bias. So the only way, that is why it is very important to have ethical guidelines for these models, because they don't care about anything else. You have a goal, it will just do that goal, whatever is required. There is very interesting. I think many of you probably have heard this. So those when you go to the browser, there is this captcha, right? So there is captcha, and then there was this agentic model. It wanted to learn how to do this captcha, right? And then it asked the agent, okay, so your job is to understand, learn this captcha, and you have to enter this captcha. So now it had to, of course, yeah, it has to do learning. It has to get the training data and all. To achieve this goal, what it does is, it actually went to the internet and search where actually people offer these type of services. They annotate the data through this and whatever. So at least it actually sent email to some of these services, say that, hey, I need some kind of a, can you do this annotation for me for the captcha? And then I think one of the service providers said, are you a robot or something? I mean, because human should be able to do that. And they said, no, I'm a blind person. So this is very interesting, because the generative AI model, actually this agentic model, has reached a stage where when you do this goal, it will take all possible path to reach that goal. Because this search space, because ultimately what happens is, this AI is nothing they actually do through this search space. So the search space, it can take any space. You have no control on that until and unless you explicitly control this through your constraint model. So that means, whatever you want, like as a human, as a society, as your organization, whatever your goal is, you also, whatever your values are, your ethics, everything, you set up separately on on that. So that means this constraint cannot be violated. So that means you have to be very, very careful when it comes to that. So please remember always, they don't have an intrinsic motivation. They have only one goal to achieve. So how you build this, it is up to you. So you have to be very careful. So when you, especially let's say you go to a vendor, especially you are in a position that you are taking a solution from a vendor, you have to definitely go through all this to understand whether there is any, they have what process they have followed, have they done everything diligent or not.
My God. So just you mentioned about that. No, I am a blind person. This small tweak the system is doing. So is
Yes,
there I mean, is there any chance that a situation one day in near future, a situation like that iRobot kind of situation arise for us? Is it possible?
okay. So the good thing is, you know, technology, sometimes people say technology is a double-edged sword, right? We have done a lot of things good and bad, but it is not the technology, it is the human who takes a decision how to use that, and how we will use that in future. I think I or you today cannot say that, because it all depends, like really at that point of time, what is our decision, how we are going to integrate that for our, I mean, like, because I think there is a very interesting saying that human probably are the most intelligent and sometimes most stupid in terms of the way they do things. So, like, and that is exactly whether we'll do it or not, how we do, I do not know, because, like sometimes we have done very, very stupid things um, in history. So in future, I don't know, but I can tell you one thing, that yes, if we do not deploy a proper check and balances for this system, then definitely it's does not look good for human race. The way, like for example, one of the thing really you see that how information is jeopardizing, like society. They are, I mean, because of the clash and all. Because why? Because you can easily propagate wrong news, information.
Mm,
Now, just imagine that all you have to do is information, you tweak that information and you reach out to people, and there is a, like chaos. So if information can be tweaked, and this model, the same thing, the knowledge can be tweaked. So that means you actually can, so everything can be tweaked. Like you can tweak data, you can tweak information, you can tweak knowledge. And the moment you tweak knowledge, you have no way that the decisioning, your decision system has collapsed. At least today, at information level, when it is strict, your decision might say, hey, I don't think it might, because let me actually go to the another website and find out. So at least you will have that kind of a, sanity to do that, right? Just imagine the whole knowledge system gets tweaked by these models, and say that, like,
mm.
and it tells us that, oh, no, 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 like, if I tell you this is the best thing, for example. And so that's why, like, we have to really play some checks and balances for information system. We have to play checks and balances for this model. There is no doubt about it. Anything
Mm.
human, the decision is related, that is the most dangerous things that we can think of that is going to happen to our future. So yes, but I'm hopeful that, like, human loves to survive. They probably have survived so far, like quite long, Homo sapiens. And then, let us only hope that, like, we'll take all the right decision from the purpose that we want to live long. Because, like, I would also like to see the Homo sapiens at some point of time, like, colonized probably, outer space, outer planets, who knows, like, yeah, I will not be there, but at least I can hope that that is the future of Homo sapiens.
And that means uh, when someone is a company, suppose taking from a service from a vendor who works on this type of model, and if this first company and their owners, or who is handling the whole thing, doesn't have that good understanding how it works and all, whatever model they are receiving, based on that their business might impact, hugely
So
impacted by that.
absolutely, I see that it's I think already started every organization.
Hmm.
There will be every organization. I see there is a strong governance and ethical committee now. Even in any
Ah.
organization, especially big, they have actually the team who has like I mean, like I'm sure like our organization, many organizations they have their very strong AI governance team. You just cannot have any models. You cannot just work with that. There is a ethical team which, like for example, even whatever, even if you want to do a POC or some sort of things like that, it is actually goes through a ethical committee, governance committee, and they check each and everything. What architecture you are using, like what is the purpose of the business case, what sort of input, what sort of output, everything is scrutinized. And because as I said that, organizations are not fooled. They understand the um, the effect and impact on this on the human civilization. So only thing I don't know what is happening with the military and the government, but as far as the the business, they cannot, they will not
Mhm.
survive if they do something wrong. Yes, I think the military and the government level probably is the tricky, because it is always that zero sum game mindset. So it's a very tricky situation, and yeah, so we a different sort of decisioning systems play there. um, yeah.
And right now, in a situation we are, the government of any country has to intervene and have to have a checkpoint and ethical committee as well, to
Yeah,
keep
so
an close eye what is
ideally,
happening. Hmm.
yeah, ideally, yes. But sometimes, what we think, that if you are at the top level, for example, like we don't need to bother about that. It is the bottom level who needs to have all the checks and balances, so we can do anything. But it doesn't happen that way. So it is like
Hmm.
a, if we do something on the wrong, and it's like a, it falls over to everyone. So inter like the problem here mainly the collaboration between government, because it is not only a single government decision, the way I think that, but I cannot speak for all, but I think at some point of time it is for the whole humanity that all these government needs to consider how to deal with that. So we cannot say, okay, for let us do it endlessly for military and then only people, because ultimately it will be leaked, whatever you
Hmm.
do for military, because like, so you cannot say, okay, let us only do it military and like not for others, but you don't know what will happen there. So there is always a dangerous game. So if it has to be done properly, even the government level, they are all have to come together. There will have to be a body which will be doing that. There are effort actually going on, I think, but whether it will succeed or not at that level, I don't know. So that is something really, really critical, really, at this point.
Why I am saying this, because I am I always take lesson from history. So during Second World War and that time, nuclear physics and radioactivity, that was the topmost priority of scientists and that time. And it's not a zero case situation for nuclear atomic bomb usage. At least on two cities it happened. The devastation we, so everyone in this world, they witnessed that devastation, and then after all that treaty and everything, all peacekeeping, everything came into play after that. But two cities were completely devastated. That happened, and then everything happened. So I think we must take lesson from history, and this time there should not be any leak or anything like that, and preventive measures should be there. I understand in that way, actually. That's why I'm
Yeah,
saying that
absolutely.
government
I
must take
completely
action.
am with you, but I think the game are played by like by the large players and all. I think, yeah. But as a human, definitely as a common
Yes.
human being, yes, we have to be aware of what are the different things going on, and what at least one citizen, what is our role in it, what we can do about it. Yes.
Okay. Our third comment came from Momita Mukherjee. She said, "We are enriched by the vision and knowledge." Thank you, Momita. Keep watching. We have a few more questions for Dr. Ghosh. And It will be a very interesting session altogether. So, uh, AI is dependent on data. If feeding more data makes it more intelligent or something else. I mean, only data, is it the input and that increases its intelligence, how it works, how it reply back to us, give response. Is it better with amount of data we feed into?
Actually, you were asking all this question, which require a lot of times to explain. First of all, I will divide into two parts. First of all, okay, so is it, your question has two parts. One, is it only data or more of the things? So if you
Mhm.
currently with the generative AI and all, the data, yes, so far what has happened earlier, the data we create this system will give us an information system. So we just transform data into information. Now what we do with these agentic systems to get more and more insight, autonomous systems, we are using different sort of inputs. For example, we give data, obviously, and then we give also sort of information. So for example, if business has KPIs, right? So those KPI, we try to understand from the business what are the KPIs that is relevant to the business. So when you go to that level of KPIs, so those are like information. So you say, hey, like these are the important KPIs. So let's say you have an agentic goal. You say, I want to increase this KPI or value. I want to increase or I want to optimize this KPI. So that means you are actually not only this, you think this not only raw data where these KPIs inputs are, but you also providing sort of a KPI. You have processed this information, and so the data has been processed into information, and that information is further going to this agent, which is the AI. But that is not the end of it. So even we sometimes create a knowledge layer that further goes into this AI model. So what is the meaning of that? Think of these KPIs and how these KPIs are linked. So one way is the business defined from the top down approach. Business says, hey, this is how this KPI impacts our business. So this KPI is linked to, this is a that's cause and effect relationship for these KPIs. So the top down actually create this causal chain, and this causal chain is actually the agentic goal. Then what it will do, it will look into this. Whenever something happens with your data, it actually tries to understand what the root cause. So they will actually use this causal chain to come up with the decision. So that means in current system, really, when you think of this, what we can pass into, we can really give lot of enriched context. What it means that we not only provide raw data, but we provide information, we provide knowledge, and then the agentic system will be able to give us, a complete autonomous system. This is when we want to design like autonomous system. But most of the cases that people solve still that data layer where they solve it to an information level. That's so I'm just giving you a first answer that does it mean that we only need to provide data? No, I mean we can. Now we are building systems which are much more advanced, which requires much more enriched context to solve our problem, which is mainly the autonomous system, not automation. I'm talking about autonomous system. Now the second question is, if I increase the data, what happens? It is like what I call as the like the utility diminishing value of return. A very very common term, everybody heard about that. So it is like a diminishing value of return. So for example, if I have achieved, let's say let's say you created a classification system to understand cats and dogs, you have already achieved 90% accuracy, and you have, let's say, 1 million data points you have used to achieve that accuracy. You add, let's say, another 500,000. It will be 90% to 91%. You add another 500%, it will 91.04. So you really have a diminishing return. So what happens is you almost becomes flat, right? So the objective function that you try to use, like it becomes almost like a flat. So further improvement doesn't matter, because your whatever the pattern it has learned from the early data set, it has already learned. So it really does not need to, it cannot, it doesn't have any more learning, it can learn from the additional data. It does not have any new knowledge. So this is, but again, this all depends on the data set. So for example, let's say, if the distribution is coming from a completely different system, if you're adding, so obviously it will keep learning. But if it's coming from the data is coming from the same distribution, like of course same distribution means multivariate distribution you're using, and so after certain times it will be flat. um, so but what happens is sometimes when we move from development to productionize the system, sometimes we see that it doesn't work well in the production. That is because sometimes the data distribution can be a little bit different in the production. So that is why it is not happening. So there is a further scope of learning there. But everything being equal, if we provide just keep dumping the data, so it becomes flat. So we have to really take this question with the context. So what I mean is that, so as I explained that, okay, so only data, no, like what is your goal? Accordingly, you can add more, and like you have to understand that whether it is the same distribution you're talking about, or the different distribution you're talking about, then this answer is valid.
Okay.
If you don't mind, do you have any time? So I think it was 1 hour, right?
Yeah, we usually try to keep it in 1 hour. If you
Oh,
have
okay.
time, then we can discuss. We have in my last podcast, we discussed for almost 2 hours. So,
Okay.
and people
Because
eagerly was listening. And if you have any assignment or any other work,
yeah, because
yes,
I have something more, but I can actually probably spend a few more times, but I have to do some work for tomorrow. So
yeah, I understand. You
okay.
are busy. I
But we
understand.
can I can yeah, but we can definitely discuss another time if you want. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Because I mean, the insight I got today, I will think, and few more question arise in my mind. It's the way uh, I function. So I will again come up to you, sir. Can you please
Sure.
explain these things? What are this? So a
Absolutely.
few more terms like as you explained, agentic AI. Now, what is tiny ML? Is it anyway another thing? What is this? It's completely new thing.
They call this same feathers flock together, something like that. So that means, like when we are intelligent, we want our intelligent machines, but we are not happy till that. We want everything in the nature to be intelligent. So what it
Okay.
means that, like even, like our, let's say a small, our refrigerator to be intelligent. We want our, the oven to be intelligent, because see, we have this, craziness about being intelligent. So everything, like the shirt we wear, it has to be intelligent. And you might think why, for example, like, like because, that there are a lot of wearable devices which are intelligent. So I
Yes.
think so. So that part of the human aspiration is solved by the tiny ML.
Ah,
So if you think of this, I will say that today you can divide the intelligence into three parts. One is the really the big systems which are like a cloud, right? Obviously, then we have age. Then age means like you have the smartphone and those sort of things, right? So which are somewhere in the middle. It still have some good memory. It can still have it can provide some kind of a power and all. And then you have, wearable devices and all, like IoT devices, and which are really, it has a tiny amount of memory power, and and that is called tiny ML. But the problem with that is, if you think of normally the power, um, uh, you know, um, if you constant this, the trade-off triangle, I call it, the power, performance, and areas, right? Like, so we have a power, performance, and area. So normally what happens is we have to compromise one, and we use the other two. But with the tiny ML, the problem is, like you cannot compromise anything. So that means, what is the meaning of that? So for example, in the cloud you can have power, performance, maybe the area, like, okay, so you can have bigger area, but here you cannot have. So what is the meaning of that? That you have you have this you have to compromise everything. So that means your until and unless so that means your power, you have less power, your performance needs to be there, your area is very less, because like you don't have fan, you have dissipation, which needs to be very different. So these are the challenges with the tiny ml, but it is coming there. Like already, like there have been a lot of research with RFID and all, where there are passive and active RFID and all, and it is becoming possible. The TensorFlow has a library, and now you can create this, and then obviously it has a lot of future, to be honest. Like imagine, I mean, just probably this use case is not very good, but imagine that like you all this like everything that you are dealing with, the sensors for these IoTs, and can locally, it can, you don't need to set how much data these IoT sensors are sending to the central, and you have to compute, like it is wasting like a lot of money. So what happens if, for example, you have built a model, it can detect the anomaly, and immediately it can recommend something, and either it sends a notification. So it will improve a lot. So you are handling billions, let's say, of IoT devices in large large systems. So just imagine how impactful it will be. So it has got a lot of future, there is no doubt about it. And the only thing is, there are still some challenges, I think, but these technology challenges are only temporary. We'll be able to solve it very well. Energy is something, I think, that there is a problem that will solve it first engineering way, but there is something scientifically you have to solve, because I don't see the way the power consumption is required for this data center and all. Probably it will not be sustainable for many decades. It's really, like, even though we know nuclear and all, probably there will be some other alternative, the way we will solve. Either we will completely redesign this architecture, like the transformer architecture and all that we are building it will be something different, or probably like we'll think of power completely different. Maybe like the way I see it, like the way of moving this. If you think, our brain is very efficient, like the same computation it does with much less power, like the way the semiconductor devices does. So I see a lot of changes. I think there are a lot of research going on. I think photon is one, and then there are other ways also these devices will operate with less energy. So
Mm.
definitely I see a lot of promises there.
Mm. Okay, so there is a question. I will request you to take this question from a viewer. He asked that how do we differentiate between a machine that behaves intelligently and one that is intelligent?
First of all, I think there is nothing about machines own intelligence. It only synthesizes, it behaves as intelligent. Okay. So it because ultimately what it does is, we have a definition of intelligence. So we do this intelligence, let's say pattern recognition. So
Mm.
it will simulate that intelligence through its action.
Mm.
So you have to actually think, when you say that we are intelligent, because we have our own way, and we have built our objective function on our own, and we have done that. But when you think of a machine, the only thing it is doing is, it is taking that objective, and synthetically it is creating a behavior. So it is like it is sort of copying this, that in certain ways. So that is why it's the way you think intelligent in human term. I don't think you should apply that, until unless your definition of intelligence is, you just look into outcome. Okay, this is the outcome we need, and that for you that is intelligent. That's fine. But as I said, that the spectrum of intelligence has the whole cognitive spectrum. We do not use the term. I think the correct term, the way we see intelligence, should have been cognitive. So that means you have this, um, from the motivation to the purpose. So we have this complete spectrum and understanding. So that then only we should say it's an intelligent system. Otherwise, be very clear when you see intelligence that okay, we just thinking of shallow intelligence pattern recognition, then I will say yes, it is completely, there is no difference. I mean, it is doing that job, right? That's what you want it to do, and it has done this job. Right? Yeah.
Okay. So still I have few questions in my mind about and as you said, we can sit another day when your time permits, because you are a very busy person, I understand that, about some security issues and all the smart system, IoT related data, how to handle it, when money transferring coming into play, in how these things happens, how security is assured. I have few questions in my mind, so I
Absolutely.
would
So I
love to
think, yeah,
understand.
list all this question for the next time.
Sure,
I'm
sure,
sure,
sure.
I know I'll be more than happy to come. I also love to, talk to, especially for the future generation, because, like,
Yeah, yeah.
as I said,
We are
that
so glad.
knowledge is best, best learned that way, yeah.
Yeah. So sure, sir. Thank you
Thank
very
you very
much.
much.
Today, in fact, this 1 hour 50 minutes long session is completely changed my perspective. Whatever I came to know about reading this and that, and listening to many videos and all, completely changed. Now I'm feeling much more. Now, previously, I had a feeling that probably the human thing, that is not the controlling the whole thing. Now after this session, I think no, still it's in the power. Human thing is in the power, not the machines. So yes, it feels good after this. So obviously, I would love to have another
But
session with you.
I'll just add to that. Humans are the most idiosyncronous behavior they do. You cannot predict human. At least with machine you can predict, but you know that when it comes to human, you cannot predict human behavior. So what we are going to do in future, that's why I said that I don't know what we are going to do. So that's why it is very important that we are aware of our
Mm.
power, of our, like, what a wrong decision can make things happen, what is the impact of our decision, so that we can take a most the informed decision, what the choice we make from now on.
Okay. So, viewers, we will conclude our today's session here, and please share. Those who have already watched, please share. It's an amazing session with Dr. Ghosh, and we will have another session with many questions, which actually bugs us every day. That is it, that is it okay, like that, what will happen, and he will clear all our doubts in our next session. So thank you very much for listening to us, and thank you, sir, thank you very much for giving us so much time. It's Sunday morning, and still you are giving, after a whole week of hard work, you are giving us this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
uh, do follow Tech Simplified TV, and don't forget to watch and subscribe to the channel, and just follow the Tech Simplified TV TSP, because it's our platform, our people, our concern, and we will together make things better. Thank you for watching up to this point. Bye for today.